This is the Seven Figure Standard Podcast, hosted by Arash Vasugi and Mikey Stiller, with mindset and strategies to help you break through and create personal freedom.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Seven Figure Standard Podcast. I'm Mikey Stiller, joined by my co-host, Arash Vasugi, and we're thrilled to be back with you for another episode. Before we get started, Arash, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm great, Mikey. How are you?
I'm doing good, and I'm both excited and surprised about today's episode. I'm surprised because we haven't covered time yet, when we get so many questions on how do I manage my time better? How do I get more out of my time? And I feel like that's a question that a lot of people ask at some point in their life. They are looking at all the things that they need to do, whether it's for building their business or getting things done with their family or their home or all the things that make your life complete. You look at how much time you have and you think, I don't have enough time to get everything done. And you look at somebody else who seems to have everything pulled together and they've got the same amount of time you do. So today we're going to talk about owning your time. Why do you use that phrase, owning your time?
Well, either you're going to react towards the day or you're going to own the day. And if you look at how somebody uses their time, there's a great book, Good to Great. And in this book, the author says, they did a study that the average person wastes 13 weeks in a year in distracted time. So we want to, for our listeners, is to tighten this gap up so you are not wasting all those hours unnecessarily. And here's the interesting thing about time. It takes 5 great hours a day to create a world-class life. 5 great hours, focused, simplistic, effective hours to create significant results. And I want everyone to think about it right now. If you look at your activities right now, because you can't look at time without activity. And if you look at your activities and you were already at your big goal for the year of 2024, would these be your current activities? It is a great question to start seeing how you're using your time. To create financial independence, you have to have ownership of time. So we have to release distracted time and put it in invested time. So a lot of people measure time, it's going to take this long. Not necessarily. Not if you're operating with a standard, not if you are eliminating your non-productive activities and only focus on productive activities. But time and how you use your time is how you're going to create a massive quantum leap. And that's how you create freedom in your life.
Raj, when you told me those stats several weeks ago now, I remember thinking, wow, that's a lot of time. And I don't remember exactly what we were talking about when you brought it up. But for whatever reason, I was thinking about it from an employer standpoint, like, wow, what if a team member is wasting that much time and you're paying for all this time that's not being used effectively? And then almost immediately I thought, actually, as an individual, that's time that you're wasting of your life, not just, time working. It's time wasted that you're not using to, deposit into your work, into your purpose, your passion, your family, or whatever it may be. It's just disappearing and you can never get it back. What were your thoughts when you first heard that?
It kind of blew me away because that's over a quarter of the year.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have thought it was that much. I would have thought it was pretty high, but I wouldn't have thought 13 weeks. If you told me 4 weeks, 6 weeks, even 8 weeks. So it was pretty alarming, and it actually got me to look at myself. And I pride myself on how much I get done in such little time. Like, I'm so effective. And I always say one of the greatest lessons our mentor, Bob Proctor, taught me was he taught me how to work. Mm-hmm. And, it sounds funny, but I didn't know how to work. Like, I was working and I was wasting so much time. Bob was so productive. Well, you become who you hang out with. I became so productive. I get so much done in a day. It was so funny. I had somebody from our team come work with me this week, Wendell. And he said, I can't believe how much you get done in such a short window and how calm you are. He said, I thought you were going to be intense. And I said, no, I'm never intense working. You want to be calm in a calm, confident manner in everything you're doing. But everything I schedule my time, and I'm going to give you a formula that is foolproof to win if you do this. But I do it based on my goal. With my calendar right now, it's measured on the big goal I have this year. So I'm already planning in my calendar from that goal, the things that I would be doing, where my leadership training would be, how often I do the leadership training with our organization, how often I work with clients. So everything is already put in place from that person. We have to understand this. I've said this so many times, but maybe you need to hear it one more time. Everything is run by your program. And if we don't consciously change our program, you're going to get very minimal results. You may improve it by 1 time, maybe 2 times if you're a real hard worker. But hard work isn't how you're going to create freedom. It's going to be working effectively, using your time, leveraging your resources. Almost everything you're doing right now this is going to be a big one. People, this is going to hit them in the stomach. Almost everything you're doing right now is a distraction from your quantum leap goal. And I'm going to say that again. Almost everything you're doing right now is a distraction from your quantum leap goal. And if you have a good goal, it's a significant goal, a goal that you really have to grow into. And when you are measuring your time effectively, so how do you measure it effectively? Number one, we have some core philosophies that when we're creating our schedule. And number one, it's an all-in commitment from your goal. Everything's coming from your goal. And you never compromise your standard. Your focus and standard are going to create your disciplines. They're going to create personal mastery in your life. Then what I want you to do is the night before, you're going to write out 3 to 6 of your goal achieving activities. And these are not tasks. These are not, I've got to do 30 tasks. These are ideas that are important. And you focus on number 1 first. This big idea that's going to help you get to your goal. Number 1. But you don't go to number 2 until you finish number 1. And then you plan your day in doing a bunch of 30, 45, 60, and 90-minute sprints. And when you're doing those sprints is when you're doing your goal-achieving activities. You literally put your phone off. You turn it off. I turn mine on airplane mode. And you want no distractions. These sprints are for you to be focused. I call it focus simplicity, where you're focused on that number 1 item or that number 2 item after you finish number 1, and you are locked in. You give all your commitment and focus to it, and watch how quickly you do it. Now, with the sprints, you want to get to know yourself. Like growing up, I played sports. I was a quick twitch athlete. Well, I'm quick twitch in everything I do. That's what I've discovered. Like I'm really good at 30 to 45-minute sprints. I can do a 60-minute sprints, but I'm not as great. Like Mike, we talked about it the other day. You do 60-minute sprints really well. Mm-hmm. Like for me, I don't stay focused that long. So I like to recover after 30 to 45 minutes. I'll recover for 10 minutes, go do whatever I want to do, get on a call, whatever. Then I come back on the sprint. And when we start doing this, now you're going to have ownership of your time.
Do you think that sprints are so effective because it gives you a guideline where so many people, they're going through their day and they're losing focus. And that's whenever they are going to get on social media and mindlessly scroll or watch a show, or I don't know what people are doing to waste their time, but whatever they may be doing to waste their time. And they're not getting right back into focus time. Like they're not saying, okay, I'm going to take a 10-minute break because I realize I'm losing focus and then get right back into another sprint. Did that give you the framework that you need to be more productive with your time?
Well, I think social media is one of the most distracted times that we have. Mm-hmm. We're tied to our phones, and I know a lot of people do business from their phones. I know I do. So, but you've got to discipline yourself. When you're distracted, you're setting yourself up to lose. You've got to understand that. And so when we pencil in our goal achieving activities the night before, and you have to discipline yourself to do it the night before. It's not I write my goal achieving activities that day. No, it's the night before and you do it in the present tense. So you let your subconscious work on it. But every time we're distracted, we're going so far away from the person we want to be. And I always say this to myself, and I'll say it, I tell my elite clients this: you're going to spend the time anyways. You might as well be great. You might as well create a great life because you're spending the time. So what we're putting our attention on is what we're creating. So we want to focus on the important few, not 1,000 tasks. A lot of people think, oh, tasks are the goal achieving activities. They're not. Those are things that have to get done, but I'd rather you give it to somebody else to do if it's not the important ideas that are going to propel you. Now, you may be a solopreneur and say, no, I have to do it. No, you don't. You can outsource it. You can get a virtual assistant. The amount of time, the amount of money you're going to spend is going to free up 20 hours a week that you could work on your big ideas. And, I always have this question in my notes: how much does my schedule reflect my future self? Or is my schedule right now reflecting what I've always done? So time freedom is so important. I remember my mentor used to tell me, I asked him, I don't know that I asked him or he told me, but he said his mentor, Earl Nightingale, told him, time can't be managed, only your activities can. From that moment on, I just started getting really good at measuring my 3 to 6 goal achieving activities. Now, at this point, I didn't have 30, 60, 45, 90-minute sprints in. I didn't learn that till later. But when I added the sprints in, it changed the game. It changed, like, I could do anything for 30 to 60 minutes, anything, focused. And now it changed the game for me and I recovered. Recovery is so important. Like I don't take naps, but a lot of people do. And like Einstein was avid about his recovery. He would always take naps so he would rejuvenate. No different than when we're going to the gym. We go to the gym, you go really hard, then you have a break. Why? For your muscles to recover. It's the same thing. There's so much that happens when you're recovering, and that's what you want to do throughout your day.
I just have to say, I don't know what is wrong with me, but I am physically incapable of taking a nap. I can't be sleeping when other people are awake. Like I need to only sleep when other people are sleeping too. So I know that nothing's happening that I'm missing. But I want to dig into something that you said there, because you were talking about getting into your 3 to 6 goal achieving activities and not being distracted by tasks. I know years ago, I would have something that seemed big or difficult or the most time consuming as a goal achieving activity on my list, and I would put it off as long as possible. I haven't done this in years. Now, after my morning routine and workout, I knock out the quote unquote biggest, hardest, most time consuming, most dreadful activity first so that I can build momentum in my day. Let's just get it done so that everything else is easy from that point on. How do you attack those items? And do you see tasks, even if they have to be done, if they're done before your goal achieving activities, as distractions?
I do. I see tasks as a lot of distractions. So I'm not a very tasky person. You know that better than anybody.
Right.
And I don't even like checking email. So for me, I leverage that I would say that's a weakness that I don't want to make a strength. So I give it to somebody else on our team to do. So I understand leverage really well. The first thing you said was the morning routine, which is critical. So you're working the first hour on you. But doing the hardest thing is so important because now you're increasing your self-esteem. You already got the hardest thing out of the way. So now you have momentum working for your day. Mm-hmm. And when you do it now, that got so ingrained in me. I used to be a great procrastinator, but I also had low self-esteem then. I had low self-image. I had bad work habits. When I learned the concept of doing it now, that's my brain tattoo. Do it right away. If an idea comes, do it right away. When I look at my first goal achieving activity, I do it right away. I do it right away. And I know when my mind says procrastinate, that's when I have to do it. That's my trigger. Mm-hmm. So when we're looking at time freedom, if you're not recovering, you're not in the spirit of what you're doing. you're not going to get in that big flow state. When you're so energized, so enthusiastic, you're in that state where everything is effortless. But what is the trigger to create time freedom is already planning your day the day before. The person whose day is planned the day before has the most free time. But time freedom comes with a decision that this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm going to get accomplished. It comes with having a deep personal connection to your daily goal. I'm going to exhaust every resource that I can to achieve my most important items. Viktor Frankl, I always use this quote because he wrote a great book, Man's Search for Meaning. And he said, the most important idea you can have is, what is the most important thing I can do right now? And then I ask myself, am I committed? I'll look, if I'm distracted, I know I've got to shift that, but I know I'm committed to my old programming, not my goal. So I will always course correct. So it doesn't mean you have to be perfect. Like, I think for me personally, like, I fail my way to success all day long, but I want to catch where I'm in my distracted time. And that's where a good exercise that we could give everyone, Mike, is track your week just for 1 week, every hour of what your non-productive and productive activities are. And literally every hour next to the activity, track it at the end of the day. From 8 to 9, I did this. Then next to that, you'd write productive activity. I was on social media. I was doing something that distracted me from my goal. And by the end of the week, you're going to know the story and count how many hours that you spent in distracted time in non-productive activities and track how much you spent in productive activities. Then once you have that, you eliminate those non-productive activities from your life intentionally. It's a habit that you have to create to start taking ownership of your time.
I love this action step and activity because you can look at all those distracted hours and save them next week. You can say, okay, I was distracted 10 hours this week. I'm going to save those hours this week and put them towards productive time or recovery or whatever it may be. Raj, generally speaking, do you think that people are more frivolous with the way that they spend their time than the way that they spend their money?
Yes, 100%.
And do you think that that is because it's less physical? Like, you're not handing over your credit card or handing over cash. And so you're not looking at how you spent your time until you're looking back. More often than not, I think people are not intentional about their time. Looking forward, it's looking back saying, oh, I shouldn't have wasted that time.
Yeah, I think people get distracted because they don't want to feel. I think they get distracted because they don't want to deal with their insecurities. I think people get distracted because they don't like doing hard things. And we've got to do hard really well. We've got to do hard better. We've got to face those old insecurities that keep creeping up and not looking at them as a bad thing. I can look at my insecurities from the past when I was very distracted, when I used that to cope. And then once I faced them, they became my greatest gifts. Like, I like looking and identifying my weaknesses. I don't like pushing them down because I want to deal with those weaknesses, because the more I turn them into strength, the more effective I'm going to be. And if you're sitting there right now and you think the more hours you work, the more effective you're going to be, you couldn't be more wrong. I promise you. I would rather take somebody. You take 2 people. One person works 12 hours a day. And then we track those 12 hours. And we'd say, how many hours of productive work did that person do? It would be very minimal. Then you take the person who works 5 focused hours with sprints, with goal-achieving activities, and I guarantee that person will create significantly better results than the person who is working hard all day, grinding all day, but not intentional, and are not using their best energy and focused time in what they're doing.
I love that. Okay, so since this episode is going to be called Owning Your Time, my next question is, what about for those people who feel like their time is not their own? They feel like they are, maybe they have a job, they don't work for themselves. And so they have their employer's time, and then they have a family and they have to do things with their kids or do things with their spouse. And so they don't have a lot of time that is their own. How do you switch their mindset so that you can show them that they do own their time?
Well, everybody's time is their own. They're working for a job. They don't have to work for a job. They're choosing to work at a job, if that's the case. But it's still how they're using that time to be the best worker they can be. Like, I have a rule that as soon as I'm done working, I'm detached for the day. Like, I have young kids, and I'm always either taking them to an activity or playing with them. But I have a part of my philosophy is once the day is done, if my day's done at 5, I don't think about work the rest of the day. I may get an idea and I may call you if it's an idea, but I am very detached. I am very detached because I need that time to recover. So I think it's very important, the recovery time, so you re-energize, so you wake up early, you knock out your morning routine, and you own your day. As you're in control of your time, by being intentional, by doing the 3 to 6 goal achieving activities, by practicing deliberately your daily disciplines and doing the 30, 45, 60, 90-minute sprints, you're going to change the game. And when you play life, because life is a game and you play it by your rules, you're playing a big game in your life.
Raj, you already gave the action step for today, but I just want to ask one more question. How do you think that owning your time translates to improving your self-identity or self-image?
Well, if you think about what is the greatest form of self-love is discipline. So when you're owning your time, you're disciplining yourself. So every time you operate with a discipline that you really are proud of, you're increasing your identity. And remember, your identities always create your results. Your identities reflect where your commitments are. Your identities tell you what behaviors you're operating with. So everything is going to level up, and you're bringing up your standard every time because you're saying, I value myself. This is what I'm doing. And it will change the game.
Perfect. I think that's a great note to end on. But before we do, if you're listening to this episode in real time as it airs, which would be February 27th, we're hosting a 5-day Freedom Accelerator event this week that is free. It's live, and we would love to have you come join us. This is where Raj is giving an exact quantum leap formula. And if you send us an email, hello@vosscoachingco.com, I will get you the link to register, and we'd love to see you over on Zoom. I hope you all have a great week, and we'll be back next week with another episode for the 7-Figure Standard podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 7-Figure Standard. We hope you found the insights and strategies helpful on your journey to success. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform to help us reach more people like you. To learn more about Arash and Mikey and how Voss Coach & Co. can help you achieve your goals and reach new levels of success, visit vosscoachingco.com. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of 7-Figure Standard.